There's often talk of aviation and tourism not speaking the same language, not being on the same page, having conflicting interests, being unable to talk or work with each other. You've heard this before, or is that news to you? That we often have difficulties, aviation professionals and tourism professionals, to actually come to terms. Maybe to address this, I'd like to call on the CEO of AFRAA Maroc. Given your rather unique past experience as CEO of Moroccan tourism, and reporting to, I suppose, noting that the Minister of Air Transport in Morocco, who spoke so eloquently to us this morning, is also Minister of Tourism, which probably sends a signal somewhere. But how do you relate to that perennial difficulty complaint that aviation and tourism are unable to talk to each other, unable to progress together?
I think that my colleagues will agree with me to say that most of the time, touristic routes are not profitable, or it takes really long time to make it profitable. Usually when you have a hub is not often a touristic destination. So if you have to go into touristic destination, then it's not profitable. If you are a private company airline, then you have no responsibility in this. I mean, you have your shareholder meetings and you have to follow the vision of your board. But if you are a public-owned or state-owned company, airline, then we need to be coherent and not schizophrenic. The idea is either we ask the airline to pursue a touristic strategy and lose money, or there are some subsidies and stuff that the states can do, but we cannot do both. At AFRAA Maroc, we have a board that is really independent, and we take our own decisions. When there's a touristic route that could be interesting and profitable, of course we go into this direction because it will both boost the airline and the country, providing jobs and revenue from tourism. If it's not a profitable route, then the government has to take some decisions. Either it comes with the right tool to help and to motivate the airline, or it looks for other airlines. And what we did in Morocco was to go into the open sky, into an open sky agreement. And I always say that at that time, the Minister of Transport, that was only Minister of Transport, was the real Minister of Tourism, because he was the one opening the skies of Morocco. And thanks to Open Sky, we multiplied by 2 the number of tourists. Today, Morocco is the biggest African touristic destination. I mean, we have around more than 11 million tourists yearly. Marrakesh, with 4 million tourists, is the #1 city in Africa in terms of tourism. That makes it, a strong asset for our economy. Still, we could have done differently the open sky by, like Tunisians are doing now, opening the sky without touching the hub, by protecting the hub. The hub is not a touristic destination, so it could have been a mix, and we learned from these experiences. But again, if we are alone to invest in tourism, it's most of the time not profitable. So either the state comes up with some help, or it goes into a different strategy. And in Morocco, it was the open sky.
Okay, let me just press you on this. In 2008, you were then CEO of Moroccan Tourism. Would you have had the same rationale for explaining?
I had exactly the same speech.
Same speech?
Exact. I think Open Sky was a very good news for Morocco because it brought more tourists. At that time, we didn't feel that it could hurt that much the hub. I mean, Open Sky started in 2006, so it had already been implemented. But it was the right decision for tourism, let's face it. Today, we at Ryanair Maroc have chosen to develop other type of businesses. We go much more in Africa than in touristic destinations, and it's bringing very good results. We are actually the biggest airline in terms of connections between Africa and Europe. We cover mainly all the African countries, all the European countries, and most of the big cities, and not only the capitals. But again, in 2008, I have been saying the same thing. Open Sky was a good thing for tourism. Today, we say that we could have managed it better by protecting somehow the hub. We did manage to protect the hub, but by fighting, you know, with our tools in terms of commercial, in terms of sales. But it was not. It took us some time, and we could have used this time and this energy in other developments.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Mikos, given your background also in travel agencies and so on, how do you see that relationship between the tourism sector and the air transport sector, between the airlines and the tourism operators?
I arrived this morning in Casablanca and I saw the big panel of AFRAA, so I felt home. And when I reached Rabat, there was sun, and it was, I don't know how you fix it. You have rain in Casablanca and sun in Rabat, which leads me to the answer to your question. Because I believe that there is a little confused relation in countries who have high tourist potential and what generally the state is expecting the airline to do or to behave. Because I keep hearing, this is how I understand your question, and we keep hearing this in Kenya, open more routes so there'll be more tourism. Namely, the job of the airline is to bring the tourism because they create the connectivity. So that's the eternal question of what's first, yes? Is it the airline or the tourist? So the question of chicken and egg. And I have a pretty straightforward answer. For me, it's the chicken first. So what's the chicken? I don't know from my online travel experience any tourist who starts selecting a place of his leisure by taking the flight. They all first go to check the hotel. So the first that you need to create in order to have a demand for tourism is tourist infrastructure, which of course starts by the simplest thing, which is political stability, or even if it's not political stability, is the PR of the political stability. Because the moment a tourist thinks a country is not welcoming him or it's not safe, he will not pick it up, however unreasonable it might be. So that's the reason number one. Then there is the infrastructure, the tourism infrastructure, all the costs that the tourist has to bear, including entry visa, which many countries have and many countries doesn't, which is the first difference. And the politicians have a tendency to think, no, it's just $30 or $50, but it's not just 30, 50. It's the fact of entering, filling in the papers, and adding on top of the cost. And then only comes the airline, because my experience, both from the online travel agent and from European tourism, is teaching that there is no real limitations to charter. And the real answer to tourism, particularly the mass tourism, is the charter, which has a business that has grown as largely as our network carrier business, or traditional business, should I say. So there is a confused relation, and I refuse to bear the responsibility of growing the tourism through opening a network unless, as it was said, somebody pays me the empty seats. By the way, there are countries which officially supported charter operators, like Egypt, for example, yes? Egypt, Turkey, and this is very successful. And I don't think it has hurt their carriers, but it has definitely grown the business. And once you have the tourists and you have the demand, it's much easier to respond to that. I have an example from my current situation, which is very funny, and it makes me feel very good about this. When I was still in 2013 working for Lot Polish Airlines, with one of the Polish tour operators, we signed a regular deal, which keeps going on now, to fly tourists from Warsaw to Mombasa in Kenya. At that time, I had no clue I would be one day working in Kenya. I was absolutely no clue. So should I open a Mombasa-Warsaw as CEO of Kenya Airways? No, never. Is the charter welcome bringing tourists to Kenya? More than welcome. I'm very happy that this money is going to Kenya. But myself, as an airline today, I wouldn't do it because that would be highly unreasonable. So this is the best example of a contradiction in which airlines are often put by expecting to be the one to initiate the travel while we are rather replying to a demand that exists.
Okay. Thank you very much. On that issue of tourism and air transport, would any one of you wish to comment or put a question on that issue of tourism and its relationship with air transport? Anyone? Mr. Abdul Wahab, the Secretary General of ACO.
A national airline or a government-owned airline and tourism together do not mix. This is what I was able to glean from the information I heard from Mr. Ado and Mr. Mikos. Yet I cannot think but, Cyprus, they lost their airline. Did they lose as Cyprus? No. Actually, tourism has grown to the extent that the government is no more interested in having its own airline. So the big question is, why would it be either or? I can have a number of examples where airlines were able to compete in a tourism attractive country and to be able to flourish at the same time by segmentation and addressing what to do in which markets. So why do I feel that you're promoting that tourism and national airlines cannot mix?
Kidai Mwaneki is my name. My question goes to any airline, but probably KQ and ET would be good to respond. There's where you mention the chicken and egg situation, where the airline is requested because of the state or government input to fly to a destination, which maybe when it starts does not make commercial sense. What do you think can be a good intervention in terms of to African governments on a clear subsidy scheme for specific routes, which is well calculated and well projected? How do you think it can be structured without too much politique and for it to serve the best interest of the country and remote tourist destinations, which if without support, they can never grow? How can we structure it properly?
Okay. Thank you. If not, we have two basically questions posed to us here. One is, do those two sectors, can they mix? Can they actually be mixed together? And I think you've addressed that in some respect, Mr. Adu, in terms of the current relationship and how Open Skies basically opened the tourism growth in a big way. And then you have the question about, which you mentioned, Mr. Mikos, the routes, some routes you would not reasonably entertain as a CEO of an airline. The question now being posed, is there a path for governments, African governments in particular, to subsidize routes which you would not choose to operate, but which others feel there's a need to? Could I have your comment and perhaps Mr. Tewolde's comment? Would you see a role for governments to step into that? If a CEO of an airline thinks that, no, this doesn't make sense, I'm not going there, but there's pressure from others, particularly the tourism sector, that you should, is the solution either common sense prevails and we focus on other things, or we say, government, if you want to fix it, you pay?
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. in this AFRAA 50s AGM, and thank you, Mr. Abdul and Air Maroc for the hospitality. Thank you, Vijay, and my colleagues here. I think there is no one-fits-all type of formula, because every country has its own different dynamism, different situation, and different countries follow different strategies. But if we have to generalize or bring some common formulas appealing to countries in a similar type of situation, I think it depends on the level of tourism sector development in the country. I agree with Sebastian that tourists do not choose a country because of an airline. Tourists choose a country because of its overall competitiveness, both physical and non-physical attractiveness of the country. So in that case, the airline is just one success factor in the entire tourism development. The tourism sector is also one part of the business of airlines, because leisure, there is tourism part of leisure, and there is VFR type of part of leisure. There is business travel, and there are other forms of travel. So it is one sector in the market segment of airlines. Definitely they need each other. So how they are going to work together, but how they are going to work together depends on the level of development of tourism and the airline itself. If we are talking about a country, a newcomer to the tourism sector, or lagging behind, for instance, Ethiopia and Morocco are far apart. Morocco is highly developed in terms of tourism, 11 million tourists. In our case, less than 1 million. So we are completely in a different category. On the airline side is also, we are in a different category. So different countries follow different formulas. I would say for countries starting to enter into the tourism sector, they would need the physical infrastructure, hotels, and other infrastructure for tourists, and therefore they also need an airline. If at that stage the country is well served by other airlines or a national carrier, they may not worry as much for connectivity because it is well served. If at that stage, at an initial stage, they are not well served, then they will have to have their own airline whereby they will balance the tourism arrivals and also the development of the airline. Emirates, for instance, is a good example where the tourism sector, the hotel sector, and the airline work together under the umbrella of the leadership. Same in Qatar, same in Abu Dhabi. At that initial stage, the same was the case in Singapore. So I think the level of tourism development determines. A good example, as Mr. Abdul mentioned here in Morocco, I think the tourism sector has grown to the level that at that stage, opening up the aviation sector was much beneficial for the country because the infrastructure is there. Morocco is a very attractive country for tourists, so the arrival of tourists comes as a priority, and the airline will have to compete. So I think different countries at different level of development in their tourism sector follow different business models.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think if I could move on from the tourism sector, I think we've kind of agreed it's kind of a chicken and egg situation. At least we've determined that.
Just like to answer.
Yes, please.
I'd like just to answer to Abdul Wahab, there's really no issue about having both the airline and the tourism industry in the same team. It's just a matter of vision. What is the vision of the government? If the vision is to invest in tourism, then there are many ways to invest. Of course, hotels and product, but national airline, that's what France did 80 years ago, that's what Spain did 50 or 40 years ago. Turkish airline, Turkey is doing this, has been doing this for the last 20 years. If it's not within the airline, it could be within the aviation sector. That's what we did with the Open Sky. But we need to invest to get a return on investment and not leave it the other way around, which is you have to without investing. So we can work, again, as a team, but with a coherent vision and not let the airline alone, struggle to find a way to cover things.
Thank you very much. Mr. Migot.
I know you want to run away from the tourism, but so I'll specify my answer maybe a little more after your question. I don't think, and I don't believe that there is a contradiction between tourism and national carriers, because I believe that that's also part of our mission, is to bring tourists. But from what I got from the question and how I see it also personally, that very frequently, and it's not an African problem, in Europe it's exactly the same expectation, there is the chicken and egg reversed. So first put a flight, and that will bring us tourists. Just the fact of growing the network will not bring tourists if all the elements of the puzzle that Tevolde mentioned are not together. So we keep working with hoteliers, and not only in Kenya, in the whole East Africa, because we are all interested in bringing the tourism to East Africa, but it cannot be the main reason. It has to be as a complement of all the rest to grow the network. So there is a contradiction mainly coming, let's name it, from politicians who say, why don't you put me a flight that will bring tourism? I don't put you a flight because there is not enough demand, because the stimulation for the flight will not create this demand. And by the way, I'm going to bring you 60,000 tourists and you have 3,000 rooms. So how are you gonna accommodate it? And by the way, you are 3 times more expensive than any other competitor having the same product. So there has to be a type of dialogue, but still I'm a big believer that this is what has created the success of Morocco, with all my love to Ram. It's not Ram. It's excellent kitchen, excellent beach product, excellent hotels, excellent service. And then on top of that, you open the market. But if you start by opening the market and then you think that it will stimulate tourism, we have plenty of examples that's the opposite logic. So I'm not against, it's just not expect us to be the tourist vector.
Thank you very much. I think in conclusion on this subject, it's clear we have a chicken and egg situation. It's clear the chicken comes first. It's a rather confused chicken because the chicken doesn't know whether it's an airline or it's a tourist chicken. So that identity crisis is resolved depending on circumstances in particular countries at the rate of development of tourism and aviation. On that happy note, can I move on to the next subject I'd like to touch, which is aviation safety. Now, at the end of 2017, only 25 African countries had at least 60% of ICAO standards and recommended practices implementation. All right? Now, if you look at the SAT-M Prioritized Action Plan, Pillar 5 is enhancing safety and security. All SAT-M countries meet the Abuja safety targets, Windhoek security and facilitation targets implemented, improve continental safety oversight, all airlines meeting minimum safety standards. So, very important subject. It's actually in the plan, which was adopted in this year, in January. I'm going to ask Mr. Carrera, given more his previous roles as Deputy Director General and Director General of Civil Aviation of Angola, his thoughts on this rather alarming situation, Probably with the only comforting element, which we noted all along, that in the last 2 years, African safety records has actually improved. But still, we have that situation. What's your comment on that, and what's your recommendation moving forward to improve on that status of implementation of ICAO SAPs? Mr. Carrera.
Thank you. First of all, it is a great honor to make part in this panel in front of this auditorium. Also to thank my colleague from Air Morocco for this great hospitality as well. Thank you very much. So this question is very interesting. For safety issues, civil aviation authorities make an important role. They must be in front line of this problem, because in Africa this is a problem. But I think that airlines and authorities have to go together, because to improve safety, the countries must have a strong authorities. The safety is good when authorities are strong in their countries, and airlines can cooperate in that. Airlines are always in front of the pace in relating to the authorities, but they can go together to make more events together, workshops, conferences as well, and to address the safety issues together. This is, in my point of view, the first question. But to have in the civil aviation authorities good inspectors, they must come from the industry. And it is very difficult to attract good professionals from the industry to the civil aviation authority. This is the issue. I don't know what is the point of view of my colleagues, but it comes from my own experience, because I worked as you have mentioned, in the civil aviation authority in Angola. The problem is to have good professionals, good inspectors. And in aviation, we have to join the training to the experience. Training and experience must go together. It is fundamental.
Thank you very much. So you're putting it down to a matter of the state not having enough resources to basically discharge its international obligations, either from a training point of view, or you're touching also probably the very thorny issue of brain drain. And when you do have trained personnel, they actually leave and go somewhere else, which basically creates, if not compounds, the problem. Mr. Bantu, from your perspective, what do you see as the reason? We know the facts, we know the reality of compliance. The issue is why, which allows us then to move to the next question, what can be done to fix it?
Ok, merci beaucoup pour la parole. Et aussi, je remercie les autres panélistes. Également aussi donc l'accueil dont nous avons bénéficié de la part des Royal Air Maroc. Donc le sujet de la sécurité, il est vraiment très, très important. C'est une obligation pour donc les compagnies aériennes, également pour l'État. Hein, l'État à travers donc son organe d'aviation civile. Bon, quand vous avez parlé des 60%, ok, les 60%, c'est beaucoup de facteurs qui sont réunis. Donc, notamment, il y a les cadres réglementaires, parce qu'on doit voir si localement les textes qui sont pris au niveau des parlements et également d'autres textes réglementaires, si ça arrive à pouvoir donc se conformer donc au règlement et aux normes qui sont édictées par l'OACI. Et en plus, il y a également comment fonctionne l'autorité de l'aviation civile. Est-ce que cette autorité a une capacité et le personnel pour arriver à assurer une bonne supervision? Vient également aussi donc l'industrie, donc elle-même, c'est donc de voir comment cette industrie opère. Et puis ensuite, il y a par exemple même également les aéroports, hein, parce que donc on ne peut pas parler de la sécurité et mettre de côté des aéroports. Hein, donc là, c'est tout un tout qui fait qu'on arrive à pouvoir atteindre les 60%. Donc on ne peut pas donc uniquement les prendre d'une manière isolée, prendre uniquement seulement que l'aviation civile, sans donc arriver à prendre tous les autres donc partenaires. Donc il est important qu'on arrive à pouvoir le faire parce que, comme ça avait été souligné il y a quelques temps ici, que les problèmes de sécurité, c'est un problème, donc un défi majeur au niveau de l'Afrique. Et aussi, parmi donc les partenaires qui doivent arriver à pouvoir aussi être impliqués, c'est notamment aussi même les passagers. Parce que vous savez que nous avons un problème au niveau de l'Afrique. Nous voulons arriver, donc ça c'est un problème culturel, c'est d'arriver à considérer beaucoup de choses comme étant des secrets. Il faut que la sécurité soit vulgarisée. Hein, ce n'est pas un secret. Hein, donc il ne faudrait pas qu'au niveau de l'Afrique, nous puissions penser que nous allons devoir évoluer sans que tout le monde soit informé sur dans les défis que nous avons pour élever la sécurité. Mais quand même, une très bonne chose, quand nous essayons de voir au cours de ces années, au niveau de l'Afrique, la tendance a beaucoup donc évolué. Hein, donc, il y a maintenant de moins en moins des accidents. Si nous essayons de voir donc au cours au moins de ces 5 ou 6 dernières années. Et en plus, ce que je voudrais arriver donc à noter sur ce point-là, l'indicateur aujourd'hui, par exemple pour ce qui concerne les compagnies, pour qu'on s'assure que la compagnie arrive à respecter donc les normes, c'est à travers donc IOSA. IOSA, c'est l'indicateur qui permet à ce que donc on puisse voir que les compagnies se conforment. Et c'est aussi d'ailleurs une des recommandations de l'AFRAA, parce que pour que l'on puisse accepter une compagnie comme membre, il faudra que cette compagnie soit certifiée IOSA. Voilà un peu brièvement donc à ce qui concerne donc la promotion de la sécurité en Afrique.
Merci beaucoup, M. Bantou. Je Dikoum. Quel est votre sentiment par rapport à cette problématique de la sécurité et la sûreté en Afrique?
Merci. Vous allez m'excuser, je ne vais plus revenir sur les formalités de tout à l'heure parce que j'étais le porte-parole du comité exécutif pour dire merci à la RAM et au Royaume qui nous est cher. Donc, je vais aller droit au but. Et mes copanélistes ont déjà intervenu. Je pense qu'ils ont couvert en grande majorité ce qu'il fallait dire. Il faudrait qu'en Afrique, on arrête de négocier ce qui est correct. C'est aussi simple que ça. L'industrie a des règles, nous devons les suivre, nous devons faire des choses selon l'aviation. On opère des avions, on ne les fabrique pas en Afrique. Lorsque quelqu'un a sa propre voiture, il se rassure pour ne pas mourir que l'huile ait été changée. Il vérifie avant de conduire sa voiture, s'il doit prendre l'autoroute pour partir de Casa, aller à Marrakech, il fait toutes les vérifications. L'État doit mettre les moyens nécessaires pour que l'aviation fonctionne selon ses règles. Je pense que ce n'est pas des choses qu'il faudrait négocier. Et nous, en tant que patrons des compagnies aériennes, nous devons être les premiers whistleblowers. Au cas où il y a quelque chose qui n'est pas conforme, qu'on essaye de ramener nos collaborateurs à cette réalité. Moi, je pense que c'est très important. Donc, en ce qui me concerne, le débat est très simple. Ou on le fait selon les règles, ou on ne le fait pas et on sort de l'industrie. Donc, il est très important qu'on se conforme aux exigences réglementaires de l'industrie. Seulement, nous devons aussi dire la vérité à nos gouvernements. Surtout, le fait que la plupart des compagnies aériennes soient des compagnies qui sont propriétaires de l'État. Il y a souvent un delta entre ce que l'État veut et les conditions pour arriver à ce résultat. Certains gouvernements veulent avoir les compagnies, oublient que la maintenance réglementaire coûte cher, et lorsqu'on arrive à bout, on se rend compte qu'on a des avions qui ne peuvent plus être maintenus, tout simplement parce que, quelque part, le plan n'a pas intégré ces dépenses. Donc il est très important qu'on parle franchement à nos propriétaires et qu'on les oriente. D'ailleurs, c'est notre responsabilité. Donc en ce qui me concerne, nous devons faire ce que la réglementation demande et le résultat par la suite sera moins d'accidents et plus de fiabilité. Merci.
Merci beaucoup.